And hello again, and here we are back in my garage, a cup of tea of course, and I'm still working on my Z650 1170 project. But in this video I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, that by the end of it we might just hear it running for the very first time. But before that can happen, there's quite a lot of work to do. And each one of those little jobs I've got to do is quite small, but kind of they take time, you know, and I've been waiting for parts to arrive for quite a while. But those parts are now finally arriving, so we can crack on and get the damn thing running at last. However, there's still lots of jobs to do before this bike is finished. And one of those jobs is to measure, buy and fit the brake lines and of course the clutch line. Now when it comes to brake lines at the front here, I've got three choices for the layout. I can go for the standard layout, which is to have one line from the brake master cylinder here, which will go down to a splitter, usually on the lower yoke, and then that will take two lines down to each of the two calipers. Can't do that because I don't have a splitter. Next option is to take one long line from the brake down to one caliper, then take another shorter line from that caliper over the top of the wheel and mudguard and down to the other caliper. Could do that, but the third option, which is probably what I'm going to go for, is to run two long lines straight from master cylinder down to each of the calipers. So I'm going to measure all that and then get it ordered from Hell. I've also, by the way, got here a spare Hell line, which was made for a clutch, hydraulic clutch conversion on another bike. That's been quite handy to have. I can try it out and see if it works or not. And it turns out this is almost the correct length for what I need, but sadly one of these banjo bolts is at the wrong angle, so can't use it. But it's been very handy to have so I can measure things and be sure that I'm going to get the correct length and angle of banjos when I order them from Hell. So that's done. Next job of course is to put some oil in the engine. Can't start the engine without that, and I'll be using semi-synthetic 10W40. In fact, I think I've got some motel stuff down there, so that's not a problem. And then the next job is to make up a pair of throttle cables. To do that, I've got a kit here from Hill, dual cable kit. That's not too difficult, pretty straightforward, so I can do that sometime this week. Next up then, what else? Oh yes, I've also got to make up a gear change linkage. Haven't got that yet. The gear change, and then little things like shaping and finishing off the exhaust mount. But that won't stop me from actually starting the bike, so that can wait. And now it's time for a quick midweek update, since I've not done any filming so far this week, although I have been working on the bike. So first things first, I've decided that this early Z1 replica rear lamp won't be going on the bike because it's just a bit too small now that we've widened the frame and widened the ducktail that this thing lives underneath. It just looks a bit lost. So someone suggested to me that I should try a different kind of Kawasaki rear lamp. So I bought this. It's just a second-hand one from eBay, and this is from a Kawasaki EN5/EN6. And if you compare the two, it's tricky from way over there, but you can see it's a bit narrower and a bit wider. So hopefully this will work a lot better than the original Z1 lamp would. The only problem so far is that I can't yet fit it to the bike because I can't make the bracket to mount it until I get the ducktail back. And the ducktail, along with the rest of the bodywork, is off for paint right now, so that'll have to wait until I get the paint back sometime in December. So that's that. And so next, I've measured, cut and fitted the throttle cables from Hill. Not quite finished it yet, still doing a bit of tweaking, but they're pretty much done now. And next, I finally finished the mounts for the rear indicators. All been painted now, just need to tidy up this wiring and it's all done. And next, we've now drilled and fitted the blank rear sprocket from B&C Express. And so with the rear sprocket fitted at last, I can now use this straight bar here to check for the alignment between the front sprocket and the rear sprocket. And sadly, they're not aligned. We're about 9mm out, so this front sprocket here needs to come out by 9mm, or the rear sprocket's got to go in by 9mm to keep the chain completely aligned. So I could buy, I suppose, a special front sprocket to move the front sprocket out by 9mm, or I can do something at the back end, at the back wheel, and move the rear sprocket in by 9mm. And that might not be such a bad idea, because if we look at this straight bar here, which is against the outside of the rear sprocket, there seems to be plenty of room between this bar and the edge of the wheel and the tyre. If I even now change it, put the bar on the inside of the rear sprocket, there's still plenty of room. And obviously this bar is 8mm, so it won't be that close. And that might be a good idea. The only issue I have with it is it's going to be a huge amount of work. I've got to remove the back end, dismantle the wheel, have it machined down by 9mm or so, and then reverse the whole process, put it all back together again. Probably have to use different lengths, bolts and so on, because now it's a bit shorter, the bolts will be too long, and then struggle to get the back wheel and the brakes and so on back in the bike, because it is a struggle when you're doing it all on your own, and then carry on. It might just be a lot easier, for me at least, to spend 60-70 quid for a new sprocket at the front, but we'll see. Haven't decided yet, we'll see. And so moving on then, I also received this week this can of PJ1 Fast Black in satin black. This is a high temperature paint, and I've used it on the exhaust system on the 4-inch collector, where we had to re-weld it to widen it so the exhaust system fits the bike. And originally I only had matte black HT paint, and it didn't match very well. So when this arrived, I've used it, and the good news is it is a bloody close match to the ceramic black finish on the exhaust system. I can't really show you because the bike's against the wall, and I don't think actually the camera could show that difference anyway, but yeah, it is a very close match, so be happy with that. What else has been going on? Oh yes, something that I'm not happy about and has caused me a huge amount of frustration is this inner plate here for the outrigger system. This is the inner plate and this is the outer plate. And the problem I've got is it doesn't fit, and the reason it doesn't fit is because before I fit it, I've got to fit this, and this is the gear change shaft and its mechanism here. Little arms, let me show you. Oops. These arms, as you spin the gear change, go up and down like that and rock a mechanism which changes gear inside the transmission. And the problem is, when this is in place, I cannot get this inner plate on the bike. It just doesn't fit. And the reason it doesn't fit is because the side stand spring tang gets in the way, and that little tang sticks up, and it's where the spring goes for the side stand. And I thought, what the hell, why has this happened? You know, what on earth is going on here? And I thought about it for a bit, and I realised that due to the COVID and so on and the pandemic, probably this has never been fitted on the bike with the engine in place, because the engine was in one place and the frame was in another, blah blah blah. And also these parts are copied from the kind of parts that Jeff makes for drag bikes, for his drag bikes and other Kawasaki drag bikes. And guess what, drag bikes don't have side stands, so I think he sort of didn't realise that that tang was going to get in the way. So the only way of fitting it that I've tried, believe me I have tried, is to, where's it gone, slide this thing through its seal first. There's a hole here with a seal on it. These are the seals that I was waiting for so long. Put it on and then fix this onto the side of the engine and then clamp this down, so bolt it all down. And the problem is that fitting this thing is very, very fiddly. You've got to use about 3 pairs of hands. And yeah, it was bad enough doing it when I had full access, but it's impossible to do, at least I found it's impossible so far, to do it when this plate is in the way. It's about, 4 inches away from the side of the engine, so you've got a 4-inch gap to get down there with your fingers and try and make this thing fit, and it's just impossible, it really is. Now maybe there's a way of doing it that I've not worked out yet. Perhaps I can make a little tool to try and hold this in the correct place as I do it, but it's all been very, very frustrating, and believe me, the air was blue last night when I was trying to do it. It's also quite tricky because I've also got to fit a paper gasket, a homemade gasket, on there as well, so you're fiddling around and it'd be very easy to knock that gasket, rip it, and it just causes your head to explode. So right now I've not got a solution other than, say, sod it. I'll just fit a standard inner plate and then modify it to take this outer plate. I still need this plate because I need it for the clutch, hydraulic clutch conversion. This is the slave here that makes the clutch work. So yeah, it's all been a bit frustrating really. Right, so that's still a sort of unsolved problem, as indeed is the chain alignment. But at the moment I'm thinking, oh, I really don't want to take the back end out. I don't want to take the back wheel apart and go through the whole process of machining the hubs. Partly because of time, and partly because every time you sort of faff about with something like this, there's a risk that you're going to strip a thread, you know, cause a problem that you didn't intend, and it just ends up snowballing into a real problem. So anyway, we'll let that stand for a while. We'll just sort of put that to one side. What else have I been doing? Oh yes, I've actually been painting. So what I've been doing is I've been spraying some aluminium parts. These are the aluminium hangers for the foot pegs, which I am going to get hard anodized black at some point. But I thought, rather than waiting months to get it back from the anodizers, I'll just kind of paint them black for the time being, put it in the bike and stand back and look how it looks. I mean, maybe I won't like it, maybe I'll think, nah, I'll leave it polished, I don't know. So I've painted it in this so-called tough paint with undercoat, of course. They're now pretty much dry. I've got to wait 24 hours. It's now been 20 hours. So I can get that on the bike soon, put all the foot pegs back on, put the exhaust pipe back on, because I've also painted the, I painted and shaped the bracket for the exhaust mount at last. That took a lot of time because it's made from 3mm aluminium, 3mm stainless steel plate. Bit of a nightmare to cut and file. Yeah, so once they're fully hardened, I can get it back on the bike, exhaust pipe on, and hopefully that's all done for the time being at least. And I don't think this paint will be suitable for long-term use because your feet are down there, you know, you're rubbing the paintwork. I don't think, even if it's tough paint, it won't last that long, and that's why I wanted to get it hard anodized. But rather than waiting for months, I'll just do it now and get on the bike, and we'll stand back and see how it looks. So yeah, that's what I've been doing in the last few days. Let me put that down very carefully. What else? I'm sure there's other things I've been doing. Yeah, oh actually this rod that I've just used to check the alignment, this is for the clutch push rod, and one end's been rounded off, so now I've got to measure it and cut it, and then we can use it on the bike. Can't do that yet because I can't use the inner primary, the inner plate rather, this inner plate, can't get it on the bike, not yet anyway. So yeah, that's it so far. Car's just started outside, so it's a good time to stop, and we'll carry on in a few days' time. Right, here we are again, another day, another cup of tea of course, and this is just a quick update because just now I've received a package. This package here is from Hell, so I assume in here we have, yeah, my brake lines and clutch lines, which I ordered. They're all custom made of course. Just invoice out the way. Be 4 of them, hopefully. There we go. So there goes some freebies, and what we got here is the 4 lines that I need. Hell leaflet there, and he even sent me some 3 copper washers that I didn't ask for. That's fine. That's it. So what we've got here is clutch line and 3 brake lines. So you specify the length, what colour plastic sheathing you want. You also can specify how many of these plastic sort of what do you call them, supports you want on the brake lines. I've got 1 here, I've got 2 on this one here, I've got 2 on the longer clutch line and so on. So yeah, and also of course you specify the angles you want for each fitment at each end. So that one's straight, that one's 70 degrees, so that's great, that's all here, and hopefully if I have done my calculations correctly, they should go straight on the bike and look spot on. Let's put that to one side for a moment, and here we've got the invoice, because it ain't cheap. Altogether, yeah, about £30 for each line, so that's about £127 for the whole lot, but then you've got a VAT, so that takes it all up to £152.95p, so that's not bad, and I get free delivery as well, so yeah, pretty happy with that. We've got the container of a little packet of 10 seals there, the copper seals for the banjo bolts, that's great. Phew, well it's now late in the evening again, and at last I've got this damn outrigger bolted to the engine, and I must say it wasn't easy, but I got there in the end. And what I did was I spent about an hour practicing getting the gear change, its mechanism, on the engine while this plate was in the way. Took a bit of practicing, but eventually I got there. I was quite confident it could be done. So then I added some sealant and the gasket, and then repeated the whole process. And once that inner plate's on, it's then easy, just got to bolt on this outer plate. That said, as you can see, I've not yet bolted up the outer plate, and that's because it's not quite right yet. These 3 posts that it sits on stick out too far. I know that because, first of all, this gear change, this shaft doesn't stick out quite long enough, and also there's a gap here where my finger is, just here, and there shouldn't be a gap. So I'll measure that gap and then remove these posts and get Jeff to machine them down by the appropriate amount. Then at last it can go back on the bike. I've then got to work out how to make the gear change linkage here. That shouldn't be too difficult. And as you can see, I've now bolted on the hangers and of course the gear change levers on both sides to see how it looks. Now this has just been sprayed satin black and that looks very nice, but on the other side, which I can't show you just yet, I scratched the hell out of it when I was trying to get the exhaust pipe on and so on. So it's not really that tough. I can't really leave it like that. My feet will soon rub off this paint, you know, in no time at all. But at least now I know how it looks, so at some point in the future I'll take it all off and have it hard anodized black, or even maybe powder coated, I'm not sure yet. And now here we are, it's the next morning and I roll the bike out so I can see this side of the bike. And I was particularly interested in seeing how the exhaust pipe looks with the hangers back in place now that I've painted them black. Now I must say, you can't really tell from the photographs here, from the video, but I have managed to scratch it quite badly as I try to fit it. So certainly I can't leave it painted black, it's going to have to be hard anodized at some point, but that's okay, that's okay. I just did it so I can see how it looks, and I must say it's a great improvement over the bare aluminium finish we had before. So now pretty much I could, in theory, put some oil in it and try and start the bike, but sadly, as always, I've run out of time, and all I've got time for today is to remove the outer plate of the outrigger system and do some measurements so I can get the various parts machined down to the correct size. And in fact what I'll do now is I'll turn the bike round, you can see it in the sunshine and see how it looks. And now I've turned the bike round, you can see the outrigger support system in place, but sadly I've got to take it off because some of these spaces need adjusting a little bit. I've got to take off about 7mm off some of these pillars that hold it all in place. You also see here the painted hanger for the gear change, and the gear change link is something I've still got to make, but there's no rush for that. So yeah, sadly, as always, I've run out of time. Very busy weekend ahead of me, so I won't be able to work on the bike until next week. But hopefully in the next video we'll finish off all these small details and hopefully try and start the bike for the very first time. So anyway, thanks for watching and cheers.